Introverts, how did you meet your girlfriend? Dating site, I treated it like a game/job. Hit up as many women as I could just to have conversations. Then went out on as many first dates as I could. Unbeknownst to them, I had an outline for every step, detailed itinerary for dates, talking points that I could fall back on just in case. Little rules to follow, so I stood out in a good way. That way I always had sort of a roadmap to follow if I got too nervous or felt like I was getting mind flooded from anxiety. I would just put on my poker face and default to my outline. After a few good first dates with different women, my confidence started to build, and before I knew it I was using the outline less and less. It's all about confidence and improving on myself physically and emotionally to gain that confidence, going to the gym, caring more about my appearance, being open and honest about my faults and be willing to change the stuff I don't like, and being okay with the stuff I do like but others may not. All the cheesy stuff you always hear is true. If you put in the work on yourself, you'll never find yourself wanting for a relationship/friendship or anything in between. Match.com. Described myself accurately, including the fact that I'm an introvert, and for some reason she was interested. 9 years later, she's still into me, God bless her. I started talking to her after 3 years of knowing her. I knew she's out of my league, so never really talked to her. Basically she didn't knew I existed. I left the country to study in another, and to my surprise I saw her after a year in the same school. I knew it's hard to adjust in a new place, so I messaged her and offered her assistance if she ever needs help. She blocked me as who's this weirdo, but she saw my mutual friends and thought I must know her. I asked her best friend if she ever needed help, just let me know, as well as told one of her classmates to take care of her as she was new. After that she saw me once and unblocked me and asked for some help. We met, and after that we started meeting and going places. We knew there was something between us but never really talked about it, but after that we moved in with each other. But after a year I had to leave for work, as well as she left to work in some other place, but after 4 years we are still together and have to take 2 hours flight to see each other. None of this works if you're unattractive, BTW, don't get your hopes up. Farmersonly.com. I was born with her. She's actually pretty handy to have around. I stared at her at a New Year's Eve party until she came over and talked to me. At work, as I was 17, she was 16. My manager was talking to her about prom and she said that she didn't have anyone to go with. I had a friend back out on me a few days prior. My manager suggested that she goes to prom with me. We both looked at each other and said sure. A few days later I get a text message from her, on her birthday. She said, "Do you want to go out with me?" I later learned that her friend took her phone and texted that. She expected me to say yes and we would be boyfriend and girlfriend. I texted her back, without even thinking, and said where. We went to Perkins that night. She said that that was her best birthday ever. I didn't even consider it as a date. A few weeks later we went to prom together. During prom a friend of hers asked us if we were dating now. We both looked at each other, without saying anything between us, and looked back at her friend and said yeah. We kissed for the first time. It was awkward but awesome. 3 years, to the day, after we started dating, we got engaged. Married 2 years later and have been married for 5 years now. None of this would have happened if my manager didn't pair us together for prom. Ask Reddit. Not even joking. Well, never. D. Girlfriend, that's a good one, 37 years and never even gotten a date. I'm a bit late, it seems, just like always. This will probably get buried. It's a long story, but basically I offered solace to the beautiful young lady that is now my girlfriend when she was getting over a breakup. Contrary to what some people think, I was not doing it specifically to get in a relationship, but because I actually cared about her so much. There's a difference between being a nice guy and actually being a good human being. It's amazing how one simple act can change your life, though. I love her to death and I wouldn't want anyone else in this world. He came in my ass. I partially owe my relationship to the ubiquity of my name and the relative anonymity of text messaging. My now wife and I first met freshman year in college when she was dating a friend of mine, a fellow music education major. Talk about introvert cred. I changed majors, they broke up after a few years, and fast forward to senior year. We ran into each other at a party. We caught up over many rounds of shots and she asked for my number and forgot about it. I didn't have the courage to call or text her, but a month later I started getting random texts from her, random stuff complaining about co-workers and stuff like that, but I would text back because, hey, this girl seems to want to talk to me. She thought she was texting another John that she worked with. Eventually one Friday night she asked what I was doing and I said we were having a small party at our house, and it just so happened her work friend had mentioned similar plans, so she came over. Realized she was at the wrong John's house but decided to stay anyway. We hit it off and we've been happily married for 10 years. High school sweetheart, saw him instantly and was enamored. Friend of friend knew him, so I just weaseled my way into his social circle just to be around him as one is ought to do, until I stopped being nervous and asked him out. The miraculous part about all of this is that no one knew whether or not he was gay because no one bothered to ask until I did, so that was surprising to hear he was into guys. Been together for 4 years now, it's nice. I was on a really late train home one night, after a brutal day at the office. She was sitting opposite me, getting talked up by some random dudes. It was super uncomfortable. I sort of recognized her face. She was an old family friend, but I couldn't even remember her name. We both got off at the same stop and she turned to ask why I didn't talk to her on the train. Introvert here. After embarrassingly admitting that I couldn't remember her name, she reminded me what it was and gave me her number. That was 3 years ago. We're getting married this weekend. I DM'd her on Twitter just wanting to be friends. Little did I know that a year and a half later I'd be laying in bed with her right now typing this comment. This was in high school, but I think this example is best for your question. I was flabby, but not afraid to march shirtless during all of band camp. I dieted, lost my farmer's tan, and felt good about myself, so maybe my confidence was unusually high. Also, my attractive athletic friend in band who gave up all sports for music in HS was wingmanning hard, and I didn't realize for years. Things can fall into place when you act more confident and step out of your comfort zone. If you stay home you get nothing. Not a current but ex, we were co-workers and good friends and had been to the movies a few times and talked a lot outside of work. One day we were talking about past relationships and she asked what my first kiss was like, and I said I had never had one. She said that she could be my first. The next time we hung out we ended up making out for 4 hours, two nerds that hadn't had a relationship in years. We split 6 months later due to differences that would have broke us up later. I am an introvert, but I can be very social. Especially in settings with predefined roles and rules, like a pickup sports game, a science fair, a hiking club, or even work, so I have no trouble meeting people like OP implies. Are you looking for advice, OP? Consider participating in an organized event. Don't just consume the event as an audience member, be a part of it. Smile. The fact that you are an introvert does not mean that you cannot communicate normally with people. It simply means that you are more focused on yourself than on the world around you. If you have developed a tightness and restraint, then you can develop in yourself normal communication skills. Well, or the reason is more profound than the fact that you are an introvert. Then figure out the reason and work on it. My friend wanted me to see his band play at the House of Blues, so I took the train into Chicago. I saw a beautiful girl near the beginning of the show and spent the rest of the night waiting for the right time to talk to her, which came and passed time and time again. This girl was sitting by a rail at the side by herself, and I still managed to talk myself out of going and talking to her. When I saw her heading for the stairs and out of my life, all my guards came down and I walked straight to her and her group of friends without any idea what I was going to say. I don't know what I'm doing. My whole body was asleep from the nerves. I said she was beautiful and that I'd promised myself I wouldn't leave without telling her, and she hugged me. Smile. 3 years this month. I didn't. I showed her my wiener. Was at a friend's 21st birthday party, chatting with the people I knew there. She came up to me and asked if I would take a shot with her. After many drinks, we had to stay at the house overnight. She slept on the couch, and I slept on the floor next to her, with 4 other people sleeping around the living room. We went to IHOP the next morning. A week later I visited her at her college an hour away and we decided to date. A year and a half later we were married. Introvert girl, met my boyfriend on MW3 on the map Arcaden. Been together for 4 years now. I was working as a bouncer at a bar and my fiancée was very hammered and told me I was attractive and gave me her number and ran away. She's also an introvert.